That was exquisite. Joe, I don't know how you can perform with, my heart just melted. Katie, you have the sweetest, clearest voice. I really appreciate your talent. And your dad's okay too. Oh, wasn't that just the best heart-opening experience? Wow. And Nina, you did okay. I know you were white-knuckling it all the way through that song, being new and all. Good morning, peeps. Good morning, peeps at home in your jammies and your coffee. We're not jealous. Thank you for getting up, putting on some clothing, and choosing Unity this morning. You know, we all have choices, right? And it's not lost on me when folks choose Unity, either through the podcast or through live stream or actually showing up with your sunshiny little faces. So these words might be familiar to a few of us. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In him was life, and that life is the light for all of humankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness does not expel the light. And the darkness does not expel the light. That's an important piece of hope, I think, in the Advent season. These words are written in the Gospel of John, probably my favorite gospel because it's so mystical, and I love that. It's so metaphysical. And these words also correlate beautifully with our Advent season. Jesus, the human being, was born out of the energy of God, out of the energy of life, love, source, mind, principle, just like you and me. How cool is that? Because I think sometimes we lose sight of that. And I love that scripture, in him was life, and that life is the light of the world. Personally, I believe that Jesus came to earth to teach us about our own divine nature, to teach us that we are the light, just as he was and just as he is. And that right there, my fellow spiritual travelers, is the crux of Advent, our preparation for the coming of the light. So, as your reverend, it is my duty to remind you, let us not fly over our role in the Christmas story. This Advent season, we are to be about the business of birthing that great light, the light which darkness cannot dispel. Birthing that great light of spirit from within. And they also wrote, in him was life. According to Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore, life is one of our 12 gifts from God. And throughout this year, each month, we've been learning about each of our 12 powers, 12 gifts from God, 12 faculties. So it's perfectly fitting that we saved life for this Advent season, to learn what that means for us and what that means about us. Some of us know that every one of our 12 divine faculties has a corresponding body point, a kala, and a disciple. Our corresponding body part for life, get a clue, generative organs. Yes? Color is red, and our disciple, which is a whole talk in and of itself, is Judas. So here's my bumper sticker for the definition of life. And it makes, you know how Fillmore said when he was 94, I don't remember how old he was, he said, I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm. So my bumper sticker for the definition of life is, it is the activity, the animation, the vigor, what I call the mojo, of spirit in us. That's life. And I drew upon, we got a lot of paperwork up here today. I drew upon counting the Bible, 4 different resources in all of our writings on the 12 powers. Some of us know about this book by Unity writer Winifred Wilkinson Hossman, and it's called Your God-Given Potential. So Hossman says that praise is the key to the increase of life activity. We know this kind of stuff in Unity because we know that that which we appreciate appreciates. That which we give the energy of gratitude increases in our lives. How many of us have the ability to stand in front of a mirror and say, what a gorgeous piece of life? Anybody been there lately? I recommend it today at some point during the day. Standing in front of a mirror, seeing yourself and saying, what a gorgeous piece of life. And what Hossman touches on, which the author goes into in depth, this was my enlightening in studying life this round. We praise and we give thanks for life as a spiritual idea. Interesting, huh? Life is a spiritual idea. The spiritual idea of life is so much greater, so much more than our limited concept, our limited perception of life as the human body. It goes way beyond what we see as life. So there's more scoop coming up on that spiritual idea thing. For now, let's go into activating the gift of life and how to work with it. Now, we know that each of our 12 divine powers has sort of a partner or a mate that they all work in tandem together, but specifically there are pairs of powers that work. So the power or the faculty that's associated with life is renunciation, which we learned about last month. So renunciation is important because it takes a lot of cleansing to refine the life idea. Spiritual idea of life. So it's quite handy for us. It works with renunciation. So we awaken our life center. And, you know, I learned early on, many years ago when I started studying the 12 gifts from God, that there's a simple breathing and grounding technique and literally focusing your whole self on this body point where the energy of the gift is. So we quicken and activate the activity of life by focusing on just the back of the top of the pubic bone. And bring our thought, bring our breath, bring our energy there. And the reason that we quicken and awaken each of our 12 divine powers is it gets us in touch with the activity of that power in us. So when we're thinking about and connecting to the activity of life, it really helps to visualize. You know how I always talk about we're standing in a mighty river of good? So it's good to visualize this river of life flowing from our life center and bringing new animation, new activity, new vigor to our whole being. And the act of activating this faculty of life reminds us that we, you and me, are the point of power for the divine idea of life. That's big. We are the point of power for the divine idea of life. So once we're in touch with the faculty of life, we move into action. My suggestion is we go straight to renunciation, take a hard left, and we name that which stands between us and living life abundantly. We're not talking about getting through the day, getting through the week, getting through this job until we can retire and then get a life. Getting through this life until the perfect partner falls out of the sky into our arms. We're talking about living life abundantly, the spiritual idea of life, here and now. So, pardon me, using this faculty of renunciation, we deny any belief, any thought, any condition that has any power. The car that's stalled at the intersection, and we feel stuck, and we're in a hurry because we're late for something, which hardly ever happens to me, right? So that thought, that condition, that belief, I am late, I am in trouble, I am frustrated, why doesn't this jerk figure out a way to get out of my way so that I can peacefully go along with my day? Okay? So we deny that thought, I saw that, Mary, we deny that thought or that condition has any power in our lives. And we flush that right out of our system. So once we're complete with the renunciation phase, we praise the pure life of spirit into a healing flow. Just breathe into that. Praise the activity of life, the pure life of spirit, into a healing flow that mends, repairs, and restores, renews every level of our being. Who doesn't want some of that for Christmas? I do. Now, we want to be a part of the flow of life because life is our ability to draw upon the living Christ consciousness, the living light in all circumstances. Let's take a breath because we're going to turn a corner and go into another aspect of our life faculty. And I don't have enough room for my props, Carl. I love what William Warch in How to Use Your 12 Gifts from God says about, this is what he says about that. Life is progress, attainment, and mastery. That's not complicated, right? Progress? It's doable. Progress, attainment, and mastery. He says, as life flows through you, you will feel you need to progress. You cannot stay at one level and remain content for any length of time. Divine restlessness. The Christ in you is ever urging you to attain the next level of consciousness. Progress, attainment, mastery. Wow. So regarding our individual spiritual continuum, how do we know we're making progress? Sometimes I feel like we know when we're not, you know? How do we know when we're making progress? So think about any road trip. Think about any plane ride, any train ride, any walk. We know that we've made progress because there is movement, yes? We are not in the same place from one moment to the next. We are closer to our point of destination. Now, naturally, our spiritual journey, the spiritual continuum that we're talking about, is not confined to the physical self or just to physical movement. We make progress on the journey toward a deeper consciousness, toward a greater self-awareness, and toward a better way of being. Ruth and I were talking about that this week, having our sights on a better way of being. I think that every single one of us can look over our shoulder and know that we are definitely not in the same place, the same state of consciousness that we were a week ago, or a month ago, or a year ago. So like our physical road trip, we've got a destination in mind, and we have pit stops along the way. We pause to nourish ourselves, and we pause to eliminate the stuff that has served its purpose. Along the way, we might encounter some stalled cars, some speed bumps, some detours, and maybe every once in a while, a crash. There's more brilliance from Warch here. He says, in truth, mastering your present level isn't as great a challenge as becoming willing to move to the next. Mastering our current level of consciousness isn't as great a challenge as being open, willing to go to the next level. There is one way we can identify when it's time to move on. A challenge or opportunity will present itself, and it will appear to be greater than that which we can handle. Can you all call up a time in our lives where there it was, the divine idea on the silver platter right in front of us? And typically our first thought is, not me. Just go on to the next guy. I can't do this. It will appear greater than what we can handle. It will demand that we rely on spirit. It is not the challenge or the opportunity that causes our growth. It is our willingness to rely on spirit, to act as a willing channel that lifts us from one level of consciousness to the next. And we've heard this before in Unity. We have drawn this event into our lives for our progress, attainment, and mastery. Isn't that just really cool stuff to wrap ourselves around? The point is, on our spiritual continuum, on our life journey, not just this life, but life journey, all along the way, when we look for it, we see an expanded world. We see how life brings us opportunities. Way different framework than challenges or problems or issues. Life brings us opportunities for progress, mastery, and attainment on a daily basis. Have you noticed? On a daily basis, if we're looking for it, if we're awake, if we're paying attention. So, Fillmore wrote extensively about this, and Warch touched on it. We express life at 3 levels of awareness: our subconscious, our conscious, that of which we are aware, and the superconscious. So the subconscious, I think most of us know, are the thoughts, the feelings, the beliefs that we can't see. And sometimes I think we are given these blinders when we come in to the planet, because if we could see it all, I don't know if we'd come out of the womb. I mean, it's a lot. So that's the subconscious. And then the conscious is that of which we are aware. The thing is that it's up to us to remember that we drive the bus of our thoughts, of our feelings, of our beliefs. And the superconscious is, of course, divine mind in us as us. It's life at work as us. The greatest spiritual thing we can do is dedicate ourselves to the activity of awareness. We may not be aware. It's coming up. Well, your first one was great, but I love your second musical selection because they speak to this. We may not be aware that we have everything we need to live life abundantly. Some of us may be in touch with that, and some of us may think that there's a whole lot of abundance and good out there, and it is eluding us in this lifetime. So whether or not we are aware, it exists in us nonetheless. Phil Pearson, who's been a Unity minister, literally, not a joke, like for 70 years. And this is the newest Unity book that's out on the 12 divine gifts. It's called The 12 Freedoms. And Pearson mentions that the life faculty could well be called the faculty of awareness. It's a pretty cool correlation. He says the foundation of our being is our capacity to give life or create space in consciousness for divine ideas. And this is my very favorite part of all the 5 books that I reviewed for this content. Pearson says, he's talking about many physicians have spoken of this, many metaphysicians have spoken of this faculty as if it were the source of life as energy. I think, however, we need to keep in mind that in reality, life is not a physical energy process at all. Life is not a physical energy process at all. It is a matter of being. Human beings. Here we are being human. It's a matter of consciousness. Life is a metaphysical idea and mind faculty, as in divine mind, and not only the physical resultant. That's the spiritual idea of life that goes way beyond our concept or construct of calling this life. Life is a matter of being, of consciousness. It's a metaphysical idea. And the translation, the core root, what's that word? The root, whatever, of metaphysical is beyond the physical. And so that's what Pearson is calling us into, is a knowing that life is so much more than the physical. So we come full circle to our beginning. Think about what we've ingested this morning. Well, no wonder I couldn't see it. It was upside down. Think about what we're ingesting this morning, and let's go back. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him is life, and life is the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He's talking about John the Baptist. He came as a witness to testify to the light so that all might believe through him. He himself was not the light, but he came to testify to the light, the true light, which enlightens everyone coming into the world. Yeah, that's what I love about Unity. We don't necessarily believe or teach that there's a select club that qualifies for spirituality. The true light which enlightens everyone coming into the world. The real divine, you and me, is life itself. Life. The spiritual idea of life. And in John 10:10, it's written that Jesus said, I come so that they may have life and they may have it abundantly. Let's not lose track of that. We are born blessed. I know that I know that I know we are born blessed. So that's one thing that this season is about. Let us become quiet together and ponder our gift of life. And if you're interested in activating the Life Center, we turn our attention and our focus to our generative organs, the top of the pubic bone, knowing that this nerve center is the activity, the animation, the vigor, the mojo of spirit in us. We are living, walking, talking, thinking vehicles of life. One little sparkle in the entire crystal of the world. One facet. And man, are we privileged to be aware of our divine nature. Are we privileged to know the reason we came to earth is to be the light. The reason that we came to earth is to know life, to know the spiritual idea of life, and to know that we live life abundantly, richly, lavishly, not letting a delicious moment pass by us without our attention and awareness. I heard we're 2 weeks out from Christmas. I invite us one and all to come to the place of life, to be doing what it takes over the divine light with which we were born. The light that shines in the darkness. Be still and know that I am. It is. Amen and amen. Now comes the time.
Snow is all